That is Lisa Calagrassi. She was an anchor at WABC here in New York before she died unexpectedly from a brain aneurysm. And now her husband is doing everything he can to prevent that from happening to others. Mara Schiavocampo here with the story. Mara, those efforts have already saved one woman's life.
They absolutely have, George. A remarkable story. About 30,000 people in the U.S. suffer from a brain aneurysm rupture each year, and about half of those are fatal. That's what happens to Calagrassi, and now her husband is working to make sure that others recognize the warning signs that his wife missed.
Now we're starting to see more closures than delays.
Like so many women, Lisa Calagrassi was always on the go, a deadline-driven New York City reporter, a wife and mom to 2 boys.
Her family meant everything to her.
Last year, Calagrassi began suffering terrible headaches, but put off going to the doctor.
I stopped and said, "Don't you think we should go get those checked?" And she said, "I don't have time. I'll take an aspirin or Motrin and power through it."
What she didn't know, those symptoms were signs of a ticking time bomb, a brain aneurysm. Then, moments after finishing a live shot one morning last March, Calagrassi collapsed.
And I got a call from one of the top neurosurgeons saying that they had my wife and they weren't sure why.
Her brain aneurysm ruptured, leading to a massive brain hemorrhage. Calagrassi did not survive. Now, her husband Todd is working tirelessly to save, starting the Lisa Calagrassi Foundation, dedicating to teaching the signs and symptoms of brain aneurysm, starting with an inaugural gala. And it's working.
I had just completed working out, and on my way home, I experienced a very sudden headache.
After hearing Todd tell Lisa's story on a radio broadcast, Chris Sorensen's sister immediately called her.
And then that afternoon, I just went into the emergency room, and 9 hours later, I went home with this diagnosis.
Turns out Chris did have an aneurysm. Todd's warning saved her life.
All right.
I'm good.
Last week, they met for the very first time.
It's really credit to, my loving and beautiful wife that Angela heard my story and that Chris can be counted as a survivor and is here today.
Such important work. The foundation will also be releasing a PSA soon featuring Whoopi Goldberg, whose brother died unexpectedly of a brain aneurysm. They've also created a website with a lot of resources and information about this issue, George. That's the Lisa Calagrassi Foundation, and people can find that online.
Okay, Mara, thanks very much. Let's get more on this now from Dr. Jen Ashton. And let's begin with the basics. What is an aneurysm? Why are they so dangerous?
So if you think about the arteries, blood vessels, you can get an aneurysm anywhere in the body. This would be a normal blood vessel. Basically, an aneurysm is a weakening or a bulging in one part of that artery, and since the arterial blood flow is under high pressure, that can start to leak and rupture, which can be fatal. The good news is that many people have these and they don't rupture.
But it's so heartbreaking to see that Lisa's had the warning signs but ignored them. What should people be watching for?
So this is what people need to understand, George. The classic one is a sudden severe headache. In medicine, we call it the worst headache of life, and those are the words someone should use if they present to the emergency room. Then you can have sudden nausea and vomiting, sudden blurry vision or change in your vision, sudden. There are lots more symptoms. If you think these overlap with those of stroke, you're correct. The bottom line is the response should be the same. Call 911. Get to an emergency room. Do not deny, ignore, or delay.
And how about the underlying risk factors for aneurysms and what can be done to reduce them?
Well, some people are born with increased risk factors for aneurysms. Other things are under our control. Things like smoking, uncontrolled high blood pressure, excessive alcohol consumption, or drug abuse. Lisa didn't have any of those things, and a lot of people don't, but the good news is the awareness can be life-saving.
And that's what we're trying to do today. That's what the foundation is doing as well. Jen Ashton, thanks for joining us.